I'm going to try something a bit new. Until now, I've had to be picky about the subjects of my videos. This was mainly down to it costing lots of money to buy broken retro tech. And I'd rather spend that money on things like food and other boring living stuff. No, the new thing isn't going to be me shopping. I'll put that on the second channel like the pros. I've gotten to the point where very kind people are sending me stuff to play with, which is great. And this Sinclair Amstrad Spectrum Plus 2A from the excellent Paul Universal Retro Boss, who owns the finest virtual pinball table I have ever seen, is the first in what I hope will be a new crop of videos where I fix some of the more common issues with these old machines. Don't worry, I'm still working on the epic repair stuff too, but they take so long to make. Right, let's get into it. Powering on shows a consistent pattern on the screen. On a 48K, I would be wondering about the memory, but these later machines are put together quite differently, and once again, I'm flying blind. And while I'm on the subject, let's be clear, I've never fixed one of these before. But I find most things are fixable if you work through the obvious first. If that doesn't work out, then you ask someone on Twitter for the answer. Obligatory tour of the board time. This is a ZX Spectrum Plus 2A, built by Amstrad around 1989, taking many of the lessons they learned cost reducing the CPC range and applying it to the good old Specky. Boring stuff first. IC9 in conjunction with IC10 provide video output. IC12 and 13 are interface chips for the RS232 and auxiliary ports. IC14 and 15 are 74 series logic. 14 seems to be dealing with the printer port. And the relevant stuff. IC2 is a Zilog branded Z80 CPU with a date code of week 13 1989. IC7 and 8 are both 256K ROMs. IC11 is the AY sound chip, found in many computers of this era. The memory is found at IC3, 4, 5 and 6 in 18-pin DIP chips. The same as found in the C64C and Amstrad 464 Plus, amongst others. And finally, we have the ULA, or gate array, skulking in a hole in the board at IC1. A quite unusual sight in a 1980s computer, also surface mounted to the other side. I'm sure the designers at Amstrad knew what they were doing though. First test is feel if any of the chips are burning up. Nothing appears even remotely warm, but as I press on the gate array, the screen changes.
It even beeped. I'm pressing on the ULA.
And after a reset, the computer starts up.
What the?
A classic cold solder or bad socket behaviour. A bit more poking around doesn't narrow things down. Possibly the gate array and possibly the RAM. The first and easiest thing to do is remove the RAM, clean the sockets with Deoxit, and test the chips out of the board. They all tested fine.
Back to the same error at the beginning.
Testing after the Deoxit showed the same initial fault on the screen. The solder joints around the gate array on the back side of the board show possible signs of rework. Time to take a closer look. This side looks badly fitted. There's a lot of flux residue around here. It's possible it came from the factory like this. The crusty flux is reverting back to tree sap. I'm being super careful prodding all the pins, but they all appear to be solid until... a loose one. This has to be the cause of the fault. Pressing around this part of the board would flex the chip and cause an intermittent connection. A nice easy thing to fix. First, I'll clean the old flux off all the legs. Splash some lovely Topnik flux on.
Topnik.
Dab a little 60-40 Loctite solder onto the end of my iron and touch the loose leg for a perfect fix.
Wonderful.
Ah.
Here we go. Fixed. It's not going anywhere now.
A quick wipe of the excess solder and we have a nice solid joint.
Did that fix it?
Hope so. Gonna look a bit daft if it still doesn't work. Fixed! Even tapping firmly on all the chips and flexing the board doesn't cause any problems. Off screen, I gave the tape deck a spruce up and lube. The belt seemed to be in good condition, so I left that alone. The last thing to do is load something to make sure it all works before it gets sent back to Paul. I dug this copy of Reversi out of my Spectrum game pile and hit play. For those that haven't heard of it, it's basically 1980s Candy Crush. Works! I spent the next 10 minutes getting my backside handed to me by an 8-bit computer with less processing power than my toaster. That was fun! How was this video for you then? I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. Bye!